nothing is easy. I mean, being in a 9 to 5 is not easy.
No, it's not.
Building your own business is not easy. So I guess you choose your heart, how strongly you want to solve this problem. Because if it's strong enough, then you are willing to take the discomfort. But I'm willing to stay with that discomfort to be able to build something that is meaningful and lasting.
How many times a week should I write? What kind of content should I write? You mentioned educational post. How much of that should I do?
If you're just starting out, the very first thing you want to start with, it's your story. First, it's your positioning. So understanding exactly how do you want to be seen by others, how do you want to be perceived, why you're writing content, and also understanding who are you writing content for. And if you don't know that in the beginning, just try things out, but get clear on the one problem you solve for your audience. People care more about your story than about your product or framework. In life, we have to do things that we don't like. I mean, pass through that and do it. I mean,
Welcome once again to the GrowthPlug Podcast. As you know, this is where you learn to live by design and not by default, because we believe to a large extent you are accountable for how your life turns out and you have to make the right decisions. You always have an option. And here we just try to share the real stories with people like my guests we have here today to just encourage you and share our own story, and hopefully it inspires you to take action, whatever it is you're chasing. Welcome. Nice to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and just thinking that this was supposed to be a virtual podcast, how are we doing this physically? So just tell us.
Well, it was not planned, that's for sure. We planned to do this virtually, but it happened I had to fly to London quite unexpectedly. And we thought, if I'm here, why not meeting in person? It's always a better experience. And we have a lovely studio here.
Thank you. Yeah, the guys here are quite good. So shout out to them. So maybe the best way to start is you just introducing yourself. Like, what do you say to people when they ask you, what do you do? How do you navigate that?
Sure. I'm Beatrice. I'm originally from Romania. And I'm a personal brand strategist. So what I do exactly, because I know it sounds like a fancy title, and sometimes I don't even know what to call myself. But essentially, I help founders, I help entrepreneurs, coaches, any online service provider to build their reputation online, their personal brand, specifically on LinkedIn. So the way I do that is by helping them to create content and share their story and position themselves as an expert in the industry, because the reality is that they are. Yep. It's just a matter of taking that from offline to online and amplify it.
Amazing. And when did you decide you were going to be a brand strategist?
I don't think I've decided to do that. I think I kind of fell into it. Mm-hmm. So I started as a copywriter. So I never really had a proper 9 to 5. I had 2 internships, both very short, and very quickly I realized that I don't enjoy working in a 9 to 5. And so I decided to quit. Quite reckless decision. I was very young as well. I was 20. And I took this course on how to become a copywriter. Okay. And I really loved it. I loved how there was a lot of psychology that was blending, why we make decisions, persuasion, and all of that. And I started finding clients. Had no idea what I was doing in the beginning. Didn't know how to write an invoice, didn't know how to write a client contract or how to really work as a freelancer, but I just gave it a try and I really, really enjoyed the challenge, let's say. And just after that, I moved to Bali and I stayed there for a while. And I think I started posting on LinkedIn, just kind of sharing my thoughts in a way, like journaling if you want. And I didn't even know that LinkedIn could be a platform where you can create content, because it was never used for that in the past. It was more, having your CV.
Yes.
So you remember that as well. There are not a lot of content creators in the beginning, but when I saw the positive reaction and how people took it and the engagement that was possible on the platform, it kind of gave me an idea to start creating more content. And very soon I had people reaching out to me, asked me to write for them. So I started with ghostwriting and I naturally shifted towards more strategy, consultancy, and what I do now.
So the first thing that caught my attention was you graduated, you had an internship, and you decided to quit.
Yes.
Can you walk us through what led to that, and how was that period for you? Because I can imagine it wasn't just, or did you just wake up and say, hey, this is it, I'm done with that? How did you get to the point where you convinced yourself that I wanted to do my own stuff from the beginning?
I don't think I ever consider myself an entrepreneurial person, and that's because I never seen that in my family.
Okay.
No one in my family is an entrepreneur, so I didn't have that model to lean into. However, I met a lot of amazing people in Barcelona when I moved there for my internship, and they were having their own business. They were quite good at that time, Facebook ads, well, Meta ads now. I thought that was like so fascinating.
Yeah.
And I remember I had this one friend, Reese. He was always telling me, I'm helping this client. So it was never like I'm working with this company or I'm working with this client. It was I'm helping this client. And I really loved that. And I think he kind of sparked that desire in me to do something similar. And so I think I was also like quite a rebel child. I'm the only child, and I always loved to challenge, what my parents would tell me or what school would say. And I think just that really worked for me to find my own solutions and my own challenges to solve. So when I was in my second internship, I was working on email marketing in the marketing technology part. So it was not very creative. It was more the behind the scenes of how the email campaigns work. However, I really enjoyed the content part. So they were thinking about sending me to the content team. But by that time, I was like, I'm just going to do my own thing, which was, it's not something I recommend to everyone. Obviously, I was 20 and I didn't have much to lose. Yeah. What would be the worst thing that could have happened? I don't know, fail and, learn something or get another job or go back home. So it was not too bad. But yeah, for me, it was the excitement of trying that and, asking myself what would be if I succeeded. And that really pushed me to do it.
Would you say you're enjoying that decision? How would you evaluate that decision of, hey, let me try this stuff. I'm young, whatever comes out of it, I'm either going to learn or I actually succeed at it. For you, would you say that right now, would you say that has been a worthy decision for you?
Absolutely. I would do it again time. I mean, also, I was having an internship in Spain and a lot of internships, they are not paid. This one was, but I was earning very little, like 1,000 euros a month or something like that. And so I think in a way, it's better that I didn't know what you can earn, as a, I don't know, marketing director or something to motivate me that way. And so when I saw that one client would mean more than my monthly, salary, I was like, well, this is great.
It was a logical decision.
So in a way, it's better that I was oblivion to, what is actually possible, because I think that's quite a very subtle trap to, keep chasing the next promotion until you hit a ceiling and then what? But again, I think being young and not having anything to lose really, it helped a lot, because when you have a family and when you have a house and a mortgage and
changes everything.
Exactly. Whereas for me it was like, this sounds fun, I'm gonna try it. So definitely I don't regret it. I would do it even now if I think back even younger.
The reason I asked is because you have a lot of young people probably graduating from school, and unemployment rates are still skyrocketing across the world. And most people just feel like there's nothing I can do. I just have to wait for that job to come. And I'm just thinking if they know that you can actually go out there and start something, right? Just put yourself out there. And that will lead us naturally to the personal brand question. So you were young. From an experience perspective, you didn't have a lot of experience in your belt, but you were able to still build a personal brand. So can anyone build a personal brand?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I firmly believe in that. And just to make a point to what you just said about the unemployment rates, I believe that we live in some really fortunate times. It was never so easy to learn a skill. You can learn any skill you want, from coding, copywriting, web design, like highly paid skills in a matter of a few months. And so a lot of content out there is free. A lot of content there, it's accessible at a very low price point. So you don't have to go to have a degree in something you want to pursue as a career anymore, which I think that's incredible. Like if you think about our parents or our grandparents, they never had that chance, right? There were 3 or 4 types of jobs you would have, and that was about it. But right now, using also all the technology and AI and all the tools, like you can essentially build anything from scratch from your bedroom, just with a laptop. And I think, rather than waiting for that job opening to to accept you or for something new to come your way, just create your new way if you feel this is something you want to do. I mean, it was never so easy.
Spot on. Even for people who have a full-time job. So for me, I had a full-time job, but I also knew what I enjoyed. Right. I loved my full-time job, to be honest. And it paid, just like you said, when you get into that environment where you know what the next promotion will bring, if you're not careful, you get locked in there because you're just chasing that next stuff because you have an awareness like, hey, this can actually give me a comfortable life, let's put it that way. But I think I got to the point where I realized that it will get me the comfortable life, but maybe I want something beyond just the comfortable life, right? I was more into, okay, I want to make an impact in a certain way. I want flexibility around my time. And from an earning perspective, I believed, and I still believe, and I know going into entrepreneurship, at first, maybe you always start slow, but ultimately you get to that point where the value, whatever it is, probably have paid me in a couple of years, I think we'll get there, right? And so it's not always easy, right? But you have to just be courageous enough to try.
Yeah, absolutely. And nothing is easy. I mean, being in a 9 to 5 is not easy.
No, it's not.
You know, building your own business is not easy. So I guess you choose your heart, right?
Yep.
Everything is hard. Just choose the one you want to, you know, you think you can deal with. At the same time, I also believe that, you know, it's much more than just having a job, because when you are in that situation where it's comfortable, comfort is a very dangerous place to be. I've experienced that myself too, and I think from that moment you have two options: to push or to pull. And if you choose to push, you know, push towards learning more, towards having more challenges at work. Like if you feel like you're not, you know, challenged enough with the tasks that you're doing, or everything feels a bit routinated, ask for more tasks, ask for, you know, a different role, like challenge yourself if you feel the job is not challenging you. And if you choose to pull, then just pull and start your own thing. But of course, that's not one size fits all, and it really depends, because there are people out there perhaps that they really enjoy what they're doing, and they're happy in their 9 to 5. So if you are happy, that's great.
Stay.
But if you're not, just know that there is much more there. I'm not going to sugarcoat it saying it's easy. It's not. We both know this. And anyone who ever started anything knows that it's not all, you know, butterflies and rainbows. It's finding yourself, you know, with your head in your hands and crying in the middle of the night because you don't know what to do. But these are the moments that when you push through, you know, they build you. Exactly. Yeah.
Indeed. And then now looking at like building a personal brand, an inexperienced person straight out of college, can the person have a personal brand? And then also, maybe when you address that, who works in an organization, the corporate world as well, can that person also build a personal brand while still staying within the organization? What are your thoughts on this? First with the fresh graduate without experience, and then with someone with a bit more experience, because you get to deal with, I think, the people with a bit more experience. But I would like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in my opinion, as I said, I believe everyone can benefit from a personal brand. And even if you don't actively build yours, you still have one, because you have your reputation with everything that you did in the past, your experience, your skills, your view on life, your insight, knowledge, everything that's packed in who you are, your values. That's your personal brand. So if you choose now, it's not a matter of should I have a personal brand or should I not? You already have one. It's a matter of should I invest in it and grow it and create leverage from that, or should I not? And of course, I encourage everyone to do that, because the doors that my personal brand opened for me, I never thought it would be possible. I didn't even think about it. I got to be in rooms with people that, I don't know, I would once just like admire from the side. Opportunities from like meeting new people, clients, business partners, partnerships, also talent. Like I've actually I was looking for an assistant, and I created the post, and I got over 50 people applying, and everyone was really good. And so that just like gives you that, you know, leverage of trust and authority when you start putting yourself out there. And also, no matter of your background, what you're studying, if you're in college, if you are in the corporate world, even if you're employed by a company, you are not that company. You are your own person. And so with everything that's happening in the world, you never know, you know, maybe you're going to lose your job. Maybe you want to move, you know, on the corporate ladder to a different company. And so how are you able to to show people that you are an expert in what you're doing, for them to hire you for a better role, or for them to even trust you. And the only way to do that is by showing, not telling, and creating content that communicates clearly your view on the world, your insights, your knowledge, your skills. So yeah, I believe everyone should invest in their personal brand.
Yeah, and I'm sure someone is sitting back and saying, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I don't like being out there. I don't know how to create content. So I don't know if whatever I'll create, if someone is going to read it. So I'm sure you encounter this stuff or people like that by virtue of what you do. How do you help them navigate that uncertainty, that fear that I'm probably not good enough to put out some stuff? So, yeah.
Well, first, that's a very human thing. We all have the fear of being judged, the fear of saying the wrong thing, what other people would think about us. We want to be liked by others, right? It's just in our nature. But it's 100% true that everyone has something to share that is valuable to someone else. Even if you think about your own journey, who you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 3 years ago, and there are people who are in the exact same point that you were once. And so you sharing your journey and what you've learned on that journey, it's extremely helpful for them, so it can help someone. And so with that, there's not such a thing as I don't have anything to share. You do. It's just the way you look at it. And is it uncomfortable? Yes, but I mean, I think the better question here is, how strongly you want it, how strongly you want to solve this problem. Because if it's strong enough, then you are willing to take the discomfort. And honestly, in life, we have to do things that we don't like. I don't like a lot of things about running my business that they're not creating content, but I still have to do it, right? Because it's part of it and it's part of a bigger goal. And so I think it's approaching it more with, okay, this feels uncomfortable, but I'm willing to stay with that discomfort to be able to build something that is meaningful and lasting and can, bring way more benefits than just feeling uncomfortable for a while. So just pass through that and do it. I mean,
Yeah. By the way, talking about things I don't like about running the business. So the other day, my lawyer sent me this large document to read because of some things we were trying to go into. I'm like, do I have to actually read this stuff? But you have to, right?
Yeah. In life, you have to do things that you don't like as well.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Based on where you are, someone definitely will benefit from whatever journey you've gone through. But I think one of the things that sometimes affects people, because as a coach, I'm also a productivity coach, is there's a lot of people with imposter syndrome. Like, I know I've gone through this stuff, but I don't even know how I went through it. I just know at the end of the day, I'm where I am, right? And I think that is also still an opportunity to even say something, right? What did you do that was, you feel it was random, but maybe there's a pattern there. Maybe you did that, some other person did the same thing, and somebody will get to benefit from that. So let's go a bit deeper into personal branding and from your work. What I know I've seen some things around, you've mentioned visibility, like some of the things that writing online, for example, can help you with, and visibility, I think generating leads, because I do read your posts. I saw something also on credibility and authority. I think those were the 4 elements I saw. Do you want to walk us through this stuff, and how do they contribute? How do they help define a personal brand? And how can people achieve these elements in their journey?
Yeah, absolutely. As we're talking about, even just documenting your journey and talking about the problems you solve for yourself, that's a really good place to start. And this is how I started as well. I started talking about what worked for me in terms of content, what worked for me in terms of attracting clients. And I was learning these things by doing them. And I was just sharing the results with everyone. And there were people there that resonated with it and found it helpful, and that works in any kind of skill or industry or anything you would talk about. But it needs to come from a place of being your own interests, because if you're trying to talk about something that you don't enjoy or you're not interested in, you're not going to understand it, and people will feel that, and therefore it is not valuable anymore. So back to your question. When you start creating content, it's a tool. You can look at it as a vessel. Digital writing or your personal brand, the way you express that in video, in writing, it's a vessel for your ideas, for your knowledge, for your skill, and sharing that to the world. So imagine you have, yourself here with everything the skills, knowledge, and then you have the other person on the other side. How are you going to get the message across to them? You have to communicate it, and you communicate it mainly in writing. But even if you think about videos or any other form of content, it starts with writing, because you need a script and you need, a content plan, and it's words. So you need to master that skill first. And so just writing for the sake of writing doesn't really help. So it's important to get clarity on the exactly things you mentioned. First, it's your positioning. So understanding exactly how do you want to be seen by others, how do you want to be perceived, why you're writing content, and also understanding who are you writing content for. And if you don't know that in the beginning, just, try things out, but get clear on the one problem you solve for your audience. If you don't sell something, then you can think about the problem you solved for yourself, and what is that problem that you talk about, and how the others can benefit from the solution you found for yourself first. And that's a good place to start with your positioning. So for example, let's say productivity, right? Maybe you realize that, do you know what? I'm wasting a lot of time on things that don't matter. So you started finding ways for you to become more productive, and you solve that problem for yourself. And so this is exactly what your content should reflect, and you position yourself as someone that's educating others on how to become more productive, right? And from there, that can turn into a digital product, that can turn into, coaching. But at the end of the day, it gives you so much more opportunities from there to build on that personal brand, even if it starts just with education in the first place. And authority and credibility, it's a byproduct of it. So when you have a strong positioning, and when people really get value from what you're sharing, from your insight, and you have taste in what you're writing, so it's not just generated by AI, and information that anyone can find with a Google search or with a ChatGPT search, this is when it becomes valuable, because people love exclusivity and people love stories. And these are two things that no tool out there can take away from you or can replicate for you, because no one can read your mind, and no one can be better at being yourself than you, like Naval said. So I really, really believe in that. So your story is really your unique element, and also your unfair advantage. So once you start creating content and you have a clear positioning for your brand, and that content, follows these topics or pillars that you chose for yourself. So for example, some transformations in your life, how you moved from Nigeria to the UK, right? How you quit your employment and you started your own business. So these are the stories, the transformations in your life that you can leverage in your content, but also the problems you're solving for your audience, right? So how to become more productive, how to live a life by design, right? And so you see how it's slowly shaping a DNA, exactly. And by doing that consistently, people get to trust you more, people get to consume your content more, to share it with others, and your audience is growing, but so is your trust and your authority there.
That's a lot of lecture, and I hope somebody really sits down and distill everything. Yeah, take notes, for real, because you've mentioned certain aspects that people still struggle with. I have so many things I can talk about, but how do I know what to talk about? How do I then create something that will make people see me as an expert? But I think you've just mentioned, create some pillars. What are some key stuff? Maybe start with it. You can experiment and see how it goes. One other popular challenge people go through is, hey, I put out stuff today. I was expecting 5,000 people to read my stuff, but I saw just 2 likes. Did you experience that?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, that's the most asked question. Why my engagement is not picking up? Well, it's a process. And when I started writing, I have a community of 57,000 people now. And when I started writing, I had 3 people liking my content, right? Because it's a lot of A/B testing, and it's not like running ads. It's not like performance marketing. It's really like a marathon. It's a slower process, but it's compounding. And I know it sounds a bit difficult to, get your head around it, but it can happen from a day to another. So the more you are consistent and you do it, and it's not working, and then one day it's working, and your post goes viral, and you have, 1,000 people more in your network, and people that want to do a podcast with you or work with you. And so the more you keep at it, the more the likelihood for that to happen. It's not a matter of if it happens, it's a matter of when. And we all want, because of the times that we're living in, and we're used to this big hits of dopamine and instant gratification. You open Instagram and, all your dopamine and serotonin is woo. But in reality, this is not how it works. You're not going to start writing today and today you're going to get viral. Maybe you will, but that's not the promise, and it's not how it certainly works for most people. That's why it's called building your brand, you know, and not skyrocketing your brand from a day to another.
Wow, that's a good perspective, right? For real. Like, I like what you said, building the brand. It's like building a house, right? Yeah. It takes time. You have to do a bit of survey. You need to put some foundational structures in place. And before people start seeing the building, most times you've done a lot underneath with the foundation. Yeah. So, and I think it's still tied to the mindset, right? Most people want that sharp hit. Like, you don't want to put in the work. Most people don't want to put in the work. Let's be honest. Would like it. Like, I just did something today and all my problems are taken away.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're looking for someone to solve that problem for you, there is also, when it comes to personal branding, there is no person out there that can create your brand the way you can. Like, yes, they can build your strategy, you know, they can guide you, they can help you with the writing, but the ideas, they come from you, because no one can go in your brain and see, you know, the experience you lived, how you felt, you know, the mistakes you've made, the lessons you've learned, and all of that, the progression as a human being. And that's why I believe your personal brand is also self-actualization, because it's really asking yourself these questions like, what are my values? You know, what's the impact I want to make? Who are the people I want to help? You know, what are their struggles? What are my struggles? What have I overcome so far? And so when you go through that mental process, you also get to do this introspection, you know, exercise, and it's just helping you seeing more clearly who you are or who you want to become. And that's another part I really love about it. Yeah. And you can't outsource that. And I know there are people out there that they're ghostwriting and they can do, you know, 10 posts a day for you for all channels. But really, when you read that post, do you find yourself in it? You know, do you see it as a reflection of who you are? Because if it's not, then that can damage more your personal brand rather than building it up.
Wow, you just shared a very different perspective to personal brand I've never really thought about. And while you were talking, it was just running through my mind. Personal branding can actually help you understand yourself better. Yeah. Beyond the superficial, like followers, building a business, you mentioned something, your values, who are you, what have you been through? And a lot of people, and I coach people, right? People don't have time to think about these things. Yeah. It's just go to the office, go for your business. And very few people actually have the time to think about it. Like, what kind of impact do I want to create?
Yeah, they're just run on automatic and default. And if you'd have asked me before I started building my personal brand, who am I don't think I could have given you a robust answer. And all this, you know, experience and transformations and challenges, everything that built me, having the time to reflect on that and to understand who I want to become and how do I want to show up in the world? How do I want other people to see me? You know, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? How can I play on my strengths? What's my, you know, unfair advantage? And I really believe, as I said earlier, that we all have that. Maybe it's speaking different languages. Maybe it's your charisma. Maybe it's whatever that is, you know, use it. And so I do really believe that it's more like it's a more profound experience than just writing to get more leads for your business. And I think it should come from that place, because when you're chasing just sales and you look at it as something transactional, it's just not going to work. And I've seen that with a lot of people. I'm like, I'm doing everything correctly. Yeah. Why? You know, I'm posting every day. I'm posting at this time. I have a VA that's engaging 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after. I'm not getting clients. Because it's not only about that. It's about, you know, being a human being, and people trust people, right? And so I'm sure you see this in coaching a lot. People choose to work with you, not necessarily for the outcome, but for the experience of working with you. And they can choose anyone else, right? But they choose you because no one else is you, right? And so when you are able to portray your personality and values and infuse that in what you're doing and in your content, then people can feel that. And when you give the same experience when they work with you, they will stay, because that's a promise you made with your brand and you delivered on it in who you are. And if these two things are not matching, like we all know that marketing in general needs to be an integrated effort. And so if your tone of voice is not right here because someone else is doing it for you, you know, or because you're using a ChatGPT wrapper to write your content in 2 minutes, then the input you're giving, the output will reflect that. And so the more time you spend on it, the more patient you are and you understand it's a process, and you're not chasing the outcome, but you're chasing, you know, the growth and being consistent every day with what you're doing, just like going to the gym, then this is when you're going to see really beautiful results personally and professionally.
That's a huge transformational journey. And just listening to you talk, I don't know if you've considered coaching. Yeah, because for real,
I do coach, but on personal branding.
Yes, exactly. Because people sometimes miss the point of some of the things they do, right? Even what we talk about on this podcast, like living by design, it's not really just about the outcome. It's the process, who you get to be, how you define your values, you build courage, you build consistency. These are not things that people can easily just pay money for, like, hey, I'm consistent today. It's something that evolves with time, right? They are the things that define your inner core, so that regardless of where you find yourself, even if you're not making as much money, you're still confident, you're still grounded, and you just know it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
Like, it's a when, not if.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just I'm really enjoying this new perspective, because I haven't really thought about it this way, right? To be honest, I know I'm putting out things that as much as possible communicates who I am, but just really thinking about the transformational part of personal branding, that's a different perspective, and I'm truly appreciating that. So thank you for sharing on the show.
Pleasure. Yes. It's falling in love with the process as well. Like the process of writing, it's really, I mean, for me, it was also therapeutic. I always like journaling and just taking my laptop and the first thing in the morning, having a coffee and like writing a post, that helped me also think more clear as well, and be, like you said, be way more confident about my business and about what I do and about what I know and how I can help people. Because also when you start outsourcing these things, for someone else to do it for you, to have a ghostwriter, yes, it's faster, but really that is chipping away from this beautiful and profound transformation that you can experience yourself. And that's something that no one can take away from you, and a skill that, if you ask me, it's extremely important in any business, because in any business you have marketing and you have sales, and building your brand is part of marketing. If one of these two things are not working, you don't have a business anymore. And so yes, it's maybe some time to put in the beginning. It's maybe the difficulty to be consistent, and also the feeling of the imposter syndrome, which I believe, by the way, is something that just grows with you, and you kind of like shush that voice, in your head. I don't think it ever disappears, because naturally, as you progress in your life and your career, you're gonna find that imposter syndrome at different stages. It's just gonna have a different shape and form. But yes, if you are willing to stay with all these things, then you develop a skill that you can use in any type of business. And that's clear communication, persuasion, and also being able to articulate your ideas to masses in a way that people get it and they can benefit from it.
No, very good. And now let's look at from a B2B perspective, like businesses, right? We've been talking about like from an individual perspective. For businesses, how does this really help them? I know it's probably part of their marketing funnel, right? But it's more and more, I don't think it's the traditional marketing. The traditional marketing, you just use ads and all those performance boosting stuff, which people still do. But should businesses also focus in like taking their time to build their brand?
So, well, traditional marketing is more, flyers and banners and billboards, and digital marketing is ads and organic content and email and all of that. Now, there is a shift, obviously, from traditional to digital, but also within the digital, people started trusting more people. And so when we see an ad now, I'm talking B2B, I'm not talking about, a B2C or a D2C product, but if we're talking B2B purely, if you see an ad now about a yoga coach or any type of B2B business, you're not going to be so inclined into like checking that out, simply because the first question is, who are you and why should I listen to you, right? And so there is more work to be put in the beginning to prove why they should listen to you and who you are. And so this is when your brand comes in handy, and creating content, because people connect with stories, and the more time virtually they spend with you, watching your YouTube videos, your podcast, reading your content, the more they get to trust you, to know you. And it's kind of this imaginary scale that I always tell people, you have a stranger here, right? And to get them from a stranger to a client is not just an ad. It's just not going to happen, not anymore. But it's a process, right? It's nurturing them and kind of like spoon feeding, with information and with educational content. And so you take that person from a stranger to get them to know you first. Of course, before we buy anything from anyone, we need to know them, or before we trust them. So to know you, to trust you, to like you, very important. And a lot of people miss this element of likability, because if you like someone, you're more likely to say yes to them simply because you like them. That's why, when they use models in campaigns for different brands, it's just an easier way to get people to buy in. Or when they use celebrity endorsements, right? Because you know them and you like them. And that likability element is very important. So it's this process to getting them from a stranger to a client, for them to know you, to like you, to trust you, to be able to buy from you. But that's the last stage. And if you're not able to do all of these things in between, it's simply not it's just not gonna work.
And let's keep with this, your chart. So we start with, first they get to know you. I hope I get that correctly. They get to know you, they get to like you, or they get to trust you, and then they like you before they buy from you.
Yeah.
Somebody will be asking, how do I get people to go through that process? And probably writing online and all of that. But are there strategies, are there frameworks that people can then adopt to help them go through this sequence and yield the results they want? For example, is how many times a week should I write? What kind of content should I write? You mentioned educational post. How much of that should I do? And I know like no one shoe fits everybody, but maybe if you can just provide, like, from your experience, what are some strategies people can use? What should they probably start with to help them nurture these people across this gradient you shared?
Yeah, so as you said, it's not one strategy that fits all, but if you're just starting out, the very first thing you want to start with is your story, because people care more about your story than about your product or framework. And so first they need to know about you, right? So you start with an intro post, you introduce yourself, you talk about who you are, what you're doing, and just like you would do offline, right? If you go to a networking event, you don't just go and say, hey, we have this new promotion, by the way, and only 2 more people can join by the end of the month. Do you want to join? Who are you? So you're going to start by introducing yourself, by who you are, about what you're doing. This is what we did here today as well. And having that introduction post, it's very, very important. I had clients that got, deals of like 50K, just from an intro post. And so those can be powerful in themselves, but it's a very nice way to segue into a story-led post. And that story-led can be a transformation, like we talked about, that you experienced in your life. And then from there, you can start tapping more into educational content. So find problems that you solve for your audience. So as you see, I'm not talking at all about selling something to people, because when you're starting out, you first need to give more than you take. Just like Alex Hormozy always says, give, and then take, right? Or ask, not even take, make an ask. And so my recipe for this, I would say, for someone that's starting out, is try to be consistent with something that works for you. I would recommend posting 3 to 4 times a week in the beginning. If you can post more, fine, but I would rather keep the quality than the quantity here. And if you go, all in and you post 7 days a week for 2 weeks and then you stop for a month, you've done nothing. So rather than doing that, just ask yourself honestly, what is a number of posts that I can commit to? Can I block, 2 hours on a Sunday and create these posts? Can I block 30 minutes every day and create these posts every day, right? Whatever works for you, different schedules, different lifestyles, and find that and start with 3 to 4 posts a week. So if you go with 4, for example, you start with 2 story-led posts, so transformation-based posts, that they're your stories, that they're your transformations, that you've learned something, and you pass that lesson, that knowledge to others in using storytelling, which is very powerful, because as human beings, this is how we've been connected to each other ever since the beginning. And then 2 other posts educational, so defining that pillars that we talked about in the beginning. Define these pillars of what are the problems you're solving for your audience. And this could be problems that you solve for yourself, problems that you solve with your business, with your offer, and break that down, explain it, and give them the solution in the post. So this is how you start.
No, very good. So we have the intro post, very important, and then your stories, and then educational post. Yeah, hopefully someone listens to that and they just start the process. So we're heading towards the end. For you, what is the future looking like? Let's play with our imagination. So where do you see all of this going? And why I'm asking is AI is coming. So for most people, they'll be like, hey, AI
It's not
can.
coming, it's here.
Exactly. It's here already. And there are so many amazing platforms that can help you like just create stuff. If AI can then do all that content development or content creation in its own way that people still relate to, where do you see the world of personal branding heading? And what can people then do still to distinguish themselves from the noise, right? Because more and more, even on LinkedIn, I'm saying that I'm guilty of using AI sometimes. So I won't even, because it's there, right? It's a tool that we can use to help us become more productive, more efficient.
And I think you should use it 100%.
Exactly. So how can then people still keep their authenticity even with all of this?
Yes, that's a really good question. First, I don't think AI is going to replace people. I think AI is going to replace unskilled people, really, because the more you learn how to use AI, actually you become more valuable rather than redundant. And so I truly believe in using AI. I use AI all the time. I'm actually building an AI tool for LinkedIn, which is exactly what you mentioned. It's a system, how to get an idea, how to store your ideas. You can use notes, or you can use your WhatsApp voice notes. That I used to do this a lot. So this is one of the reasons we added this feature with my co-founder David. So you can put there any notes in your mind in the app, and then these notes can become posts. So the way you keep your authenticity is because they're your ideas, right? And so the posts are formatted in a way that works for LinkedIn, but you always have the freedom to edit them and to change them. And so in the app as well, you can build your brand DNA, which again, your authenticity. So it's not just a AI tool that writes content for you. It thinks with you, and it gives you the ideas when, and the angles when you struggle to find them, with proven formulas that work, and that they've been tested by me, by my co-founder, and they've been tested the clients I worked with. So that's just a small, parallel with the AI.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. So absolutely, I think AI is going to advance even more. And what I do think with the future of personal branding, how people invest in companies, right? That's a form of investment. I think people will start investing in personal brands just like they do in companies. This is my 2 cents, what I'm guessing. And as I said, I don't think AI should be feared. I think it should be mastered and understood, because we only fear things that we don't understand because they're scary, right? But the moment you understand that, you learn about it and you adapt, you keep, at speed with it, this is when your skills become even more powerful and you become even more valuable for your clients or for the company you were working for. So yeah, this is what I think.
Good. Like you said, for me, I'm not scared of AI. I feel like we have an exciting future. I know things can go wrong. Hopefully it doesn't. Let's just use the tools, but still keep that authenticity. And people are already investing in people's personal brand. I think these days, if you see somebody who is gradually growing, then that's why people will typically reach out to you to like, hey, do you want to be part of this? And I've seen that like a couple of times, right? Where you see someone consistently putting themselves out in a particular sector or in a particular way, and you have an idea, you're like, maybe I should just even fund whatever this person is doing, and we can come up with, I don't know, a form of arrangement. So I genuinely believe people will be investing in individuals because of their personal brand.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, when you see someone like fast growing, I believe that kind of investment would be more like, hey, I invest in you growing your brand, and whatever you need to get there. But when you get there, I get shares, essentially. This is just my guess, this is not something I've read somewhere. I just
but that's brilliant.
I just see how it's like moving towards that direction. And speaking of personal brands, just a quick mention as well. I am launching my community very soon, Simply Branding. And for anyone there that is looking to learn how to build, how to grow, and how to also monetize their personal brand on LinkedIn, we're going to meet weekly. You're not going to be alone on the journey, because we talked about the imposter syndrome. And so the launch will be next month.
Amazing.
And will be weekly sessions. We'll have master classes with experts as well every month that they don't talk only about personal branding, but about productivity, for example, or anything that helps you, sustain and grow your brand and your business. And it's going to be fun. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. So please feel free. We'll share the links in the podcast for people to go and check it out. Just before we end, I always ask my guests, besides working and doing all this stuff, I know you enjoy personal branding, but besides personal branding, what do you do for fun? How do you just relax and don't think about work and don't just, unwind? Yes.
I love that. Well, I really enjoy going to workout classes.
Okay.
I really enjoy yoga. I know it's not essentially a workout class. I actually study yoga. I'm actually a yoga teacher on paper. I've never taught a class, and I don't think I'll ever do. But it's a beautiful practice, and I enjoy it. Also, I really enjoy the bar classes. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No, I haven't.
So it's a combination between high intensity workouts and ballet. You're gonna see a lot of ladies inside. Everything is pink. I think it's just, I don't know, allow me to tap more in my feminine energy. And what else? Okay, this is funny.
Yeah.
I can't sing, but I love going karaoke. I have a terrible voice, and I'm sorry for anyone that ever heard it. Sorry, but that brings me a lot of joy, and I enjoy it.
Oh, wonderful. And I'm surprised you didn't mention football. You stay in Barcelona, for crying out loud. Why
No,
are
I don't
you
know
not
anything
a
about football,
Barcelona fan?
sorry. For all the football fans there, I don't know.
We had a fantastic game yesterday, by the way, so I'm super happy.
So I assume you like football.
Oh, yes, I do. And the one time I visited Barcelona, I went to the stadium, and I was like,
Oh, yes, you told me. Yes.
it was good. Yeah, it's quite a fun city, to be honest. I think people are chilled. People just, and the weather is fantastic.
Feels like a holiday every day.
I
because
know.
Everyone is there on a holiday, so you just feel like you are on a holiday too, even if you're not.
Yeah. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
being on the podcast and sharing so much about personal branding. For our audience that have listened, please go out there, live a life by design, right? It's one life we have, and we have to make the best out of it. Don't just wait for life to happen to you. And one of the ways you can live by design is by building your own personal brand, because you don't know where it can go tomorrow. Who knows? You can be on the podcast with us, and we look forward to that. But for now, enjoy it, and see you on the next episode. Bye for now.